So question 22 says approximate the mean of the frequency distribution for ages of residents of a town. So we have this icon, so we can export this data out to Excel. So I'm going to do that to start with. So export out, we have this data here. Now, to do it mean, we need a data point. So these classes from 0 to 9, we can't actually use those values. So this is why they mean by approximate the mean, because we've got a range of values. So what we're going to do with that class is we're actually going to determine the midpoint. So I'm going to make a little category here, midpoint. Now to find the midpoint, you'd have to add the 0 and the 9 and divide by 2. Well, 0 plus 9 is 9, and half of 9 is 4.5. So 4.5 would be the midpoint of the first one. Notice that the class width is actually a 10. So I can add 10 down through here and get the rest of the midpoints. So 14.5. So I can do it that way. Now, if you want, you can do the midpoint using technology a little bit more so. So another way to do the midpoint is try to do that again. I can break it apart as lower and upper. So I can actually break across, I can put my lower class limits in one column and upper class limits in a second column. So we have 0 there, and then so I can go 0 through 80, and then my upper I've got 9 and 19. Sometimes what you can do is if you highlight these two and drag, it may see the pattern. Let's see if it does. So notice how if you highlight the first two, then it actually recognizes the pattern of counting by tens. So you don't have to actually type them all in. So to do the midpoint, I actually can use this data here to do a midpoint. So notice how it's the lower plus the upper divided by 2. So notice how that 0 is in the F2 spot and the 9 is in the G2 spot. So what I can do to do midpoint is I can hit the equal sign, and in parentheses, I could type in then F2 plus G2, close my parenthesis, and then hit the slash bar divided by 2, and it should do my midpoint. Now, what I can do there is since I created a formula, I can click on this box, click on that little corner and drag down, and it should be able to calculate the midpoints for all those. So that's how I can also get the midpoint this way. Now, what we need is the mean. To do the mean or average there, try that again. This is going to be a weighted mean. Notice that this 4.5 actually occurred 40 times. So there's a special formula we can use in Excel. It's called the sum product. So to do a weighted mean, we have to kind of hit equals, and we have to do what's called a sum product. So my data points are these, but I need to type in sum product. So sum product. So this is going to be my numerator. So my sum product, what it's going to do is it's going to multiply the 4.5 times 40, the 14.5 times 39, the 24.5 times 21. It's going to do all that math for me by just typing into this formula. So what I can do is highlight the 4.5 down to the 84.5. And then notice how it's got a comma. And then I can do the frequency, which is the 40 through the 6. And then I can close my parenthesis off and hit enter. Whoops. Well, I also got to divide by the the weighted the sum of the weights. So if I divide by, then the frequencies are our weights. So we have 40 of these. So we just need a sum of those. So if I type in sum, and then if I drag in the frequency, it should add all those together. And that should be my weighted mean. 38.39 or 38.4 would be rounding to the tenths place. So I can do this problem in Excel, but I would have to I have a little bit of work to do. I have to find the midpoint is the big thing. And then once we have the midpoint and we have our frequency, we can kind of all put it together here. This is kind of overkill because I actually could do the midpoint in my head. I don't have to do all this, but if you want, you could have done the midpoint by breaking this apart into the lower and the upper and let the calculator do the Excel do all of that. So I'll stop there and see if you found that useful.